Hello and good morning. Welcome to our second installment of the Inventory app training. So we released an updated version of the app in September. The new Inventory app has a new look and feel. You'll see that there's a color scheme that's consistent with the other applications. And we're going to walk through the new issue and return flow as well as view page. Here's some highlights of what we're going to cover today. So again, we're going to walk through the login process, the issue workflow, return workflow, and then the new view page, which takes over the adjust page within the old prior version. So walk through each. Feel free to send me questions or comments through the chat. So for the login process, we have streamlined it with the updated login screen that allows you to use the same authentication as Salomon Live v3. So this is very similar to the new and updated Track app. So what this means is that the username and password you use to log into Salomon Live can be used to log into the Inventory app. Similarly, if you have multi-factor authentication configured, that will also be activated when logging into the app. For those that have single sign-on, which is probably not too many of you, after logging in, you'll be redirected to your SSO identity provider's login page where your corporate credentials will need to be entered and authenticated. Once it's authenticated, the system's going to check to see if you have an existing user profile, and then it'll take it from there. I have all those steps for a single sign-on documented in the user guide. So if you are a single sign-on user and you need those steps, let me know afterwards and I can send you those steps. Just going to get my app up here. So once you log in, it's going to take you to a screen that looks just like this. You'll see that it has that similar look and feel as the prior version. So there is 3 menu items: issue, return, and view. As I said, the view, this is in replacement of the adjust function that was in the prior version. At the top here, you're going to see there's the logout option. And then you'll see your welcome, your name, as well as your username, and then if you have a picture. So this is if you have a linked record within your user profile. At the bottom, there is a privacy policy. If you want to view that, you can tap on that and it'll take you to our policy. You can read through that. So let's take a look at the issue function first. So with the issue side, you'll see that there's going to be some changes here. So in the prior version, when you tapped issue, it took you to a page that lists all of your inventory items from Salamander Live. In this new updated version, it's going to immediately take you to the issue cart. And then from there, you have options. You can either scan barcodes to add them to the cart, or you can look up. So you have the search function. So very similar to the prior version. Instead, you have to tap this button to download that list. And then you have the select a person, which is required, select an event, which is optional. So these are the same functionality as we had in the prior version. So let's take a look at how do you add inventory to your issue cart. So 2 different ways to do this. So I'm going to take a look at the manual way first. So manual way, simply click on the search button. It's going to download your first 50 records. Might help if I logged into the correct account here. I apologize. There we go. There we go. Just refresh my page real quick there. So in this case, it's going to download the first 50 records in alphanumeric order from Salamander Live. You'll see that the icons here have changed as well too. We don't have a plus and a hashtag anymore. You're going to see quantities on hand and then this toolbar type icon. So if you see this toolbar type icon, that is your fixed assets. And then of course your consumables will be represented by how many quantities you have on hand of that item. So you have the option of scrolling through the page is pretty quick. Once you get to the bottom of the 50, it's going to load an additional 50. It takes you to all your records. The other option that you have is you can do a search at the top here. So in this case, if I do a search in this case, I'm just going to search for radio. Tap done. It's going to filter out your list by radio. In this case, it's doing a contains. Now, searching this case is much more comprehensive because you're going to be able to search not just by the name of the item, but you'll also be able to search by the organization and the ID number. So from here to add the item is simply tapping on that toolbar. If you tap on that icon, it's going to add it to your cart. And you'll see it's added here, and it'll tell you the quantity that you've added to your cart. If you want to add more items, simply tap on the search button one more time. It's going to bring you back to your filtered list. If you want to clear out your filter list, simply do another search. So just simply tap in the search field and do another search. Or if you want your full list again, tap the back button and then tap the search function again, and then this is where you'll get your entire list again. So a couple different ways to do a search. Add another item in here. Again, it's that simple to add those items. Now, when you go into your search, you'll notice that the names of the items are in blue. That is because it is tappable and you can actually go in to view the profile of that record. So similarly what you were able to do in the prior version. So if I wanted to take a look at this 60 kilowatt generator, I can tap on the name. It's going to take me into the profile. In the profile, you're going to see the profile tab, more info tab, as well as location and contact. So this information, whatever you see here, is going to mirror what's available within that record in Salamander Live. And of course, all the statuses of your items in here are going to be available because only available fixed assets and consumables will be listed in that search function. Anything that is out of service, missing, being service, out of stock will not be listed. So that's important to note. So that's the same process as the prior version. So these are all tappable. You can go through, view the information. Now this is a view only, so there's nothing you can do to make changes on this page. If you need to make changes, you can either go into your Salamander Live record and make those changes. There is a view function where you can do some limited changes, but in this case, this is just view only when you're doing it from the issue screen. To return, simply tap back. It takes you back to your list. We do the exact same thing for a consumable item. Tap on it, you'll see that consumable. It'll have this gray background that again lets you know that you've got items in stock. You can also scroll down to see your quantity. Same thing, more info, location, and contact, if there's any. To add your consumable items, simply tap on the quantity. It's going to open up a window, lets you know how many you have in stock. Of course, you have 60, it tells you right there, and your max that you can enter in is this quantity right here that's in the parentheses. Add your quantity, tap enter, now it's added to the cart. So you can continue to do that process until you have all the items in your cart. From here, if you're looking at scanning, you can also scan items as well, other than manually adding items. So scanning does require you to print off barcodes from Salamander Live. So if you are unfamiliar with that process, we do have documentation on that can walk you through that process of how to print inventory labels and other types of barcodes that you can add to like a resource book or equipment tags, hard cards. So lots of different options there. So with scanning, simply just tap on the scan button and then scan your items. So scanning your items, one of the things that you have to make sure is that if you have any items that are not available, which means that it's in a different status other than available, it's already been issued, or if it's out of stock, you're going to see these little pop-ups that let you know you can't add it to the cart. So I'm going to tap my scan button. Make sure you allow the camera, just like any of our other applications. Scan the item. You'll see it added to the cart. If you want to add another item, you do have to tap on the scan button again and add it to the cart. Now, what happens if you add an item that is not available? So I'm going to scan that for you so you can see. If you scan an item that's not available, you're going to see this. This item is not available. So this radio I scanned is probably out of service. Now, what happens if the item's already issued out? You'll see a similar little pop-up menu, okay, or pop-up message. Now I'm scanning it from a book, so if you're scanning from a book like me, you got to be careful when you're scanning that you're not scanning other barcodes because the reader on the new inventory app is really quick. So it picks up barcodes extremely fast. So you got to be a little bit careful when you're scanning that you're putting your camera over the correct barcode. So you see, I scanned this one. This is a ambulance, and it tells me that scan unsuccessful. Item has already been added to the issue cart. Now, if there's other items that's been issued out already, you'll see that it's going to pop up that says that this item's already issued. So that one I already scanned. I'll just scan another one. And then as you start adding items, again, I've added so far just fixed assets, but I can also scan in consumable barcodes as well. So here's some consumables. Again, it tells me I've got a max of 60 in here. I can add in my quantity, apply. If I want to add more items, I do have to tap the scan button again. So this is an item that's out of stock. So that's why when I scan it, it says this item is not available. So you get these little pop-ups to let you know if the item is available or not. Unlike the other version, our prior version, you cannot scan an item if it's out of service, and it's already issued, and then do the transaction of returning and reissuing to someone else within this updated version. The reason for that is because there's a lot of different verification that's going through to check that item. And so it's a stepping stone for all the new enhancements that we'll be adding into the inventory app. So that's the reason why you can't just skip that process. So if you wanted to reissue up this item to someone else, you'll have to do a return and then it'll free up that item for you to issue out to someone else. So that was a question that popped up in our last training. So I just want to put that out there right away that any items that's already issued out, you can't do the return through the issue screen. It's got to be done and go through that process of return. So I've got a bunch of items in my cart here. So just like the prior version, you do have to add a person. You have the option of scanning a barcode, or you can manually search for the person, and this is required. So like the prior version, you have to have at least a person in the cart as well as an item. So a couple options here. You can scan. So I'm going to scan a person. Oh, let me make sure I'm scanning the right barcode here. Okay. So I scan Miss Blossom Ack. If I wanted to change that, I can just tap on her name and then search for someone else. So in this case, you can do a search by first name, last name, organization ID. Okay. Tap search. There it is. Select the person, and now they're added to the cart. Another option in here is the linking of an event. So this hasn't changed, the same process as the prior version. Linking an event, what is this? What does it do? So in the case where this issuance tied to an event where you want to track what was consumed during an event, you want to make sure that you select an event. So this is an optional step. So what it does is it takes this issuance and makes the data available on that inventory history report within the event. So tap on select an event. All your events that's in progress will be listed. So that's the one thing on here is that your event has to be active and running. So from here, you have your option. Simply select your event. Select this one right here. It's tying this issuance to this event called Event Reporting Test. Now, if you want to delete the event, just swipe to the left and it'll delete it. Select it again. Same thing with items in your cart. If you made a mistake, you scan the wrong item and you want to remove it, simply just scroll and then swipe to the left. So that process has not changed from the prior version. If you need to change quantity, you can see on here, the quantity is in blue. That means it's tappable. You can tap on that entering your new quantity. So I want 10 versus 7, so I'm going to type 10 in. In this case, my max is 7. I can't do more than 7. So I'm going to do 7, tap apply, and there it is. So I've got 7. Once you're done, simply tap issue. Going to complete that process, and now items have been issued successfully. So we just completed an issuance. Once you tap OK, it's going to bring you back to the menu screen. It does not bring you back to the cart. It brings you back to the menu screen where now you can continue doing some issuances. You can do a return or you can do a view. Okay, so that's the issue side. So that process, that flow has changed from our prior version. Looking on the return side, so the return side, this works very similar to the inventory module within Salamander Live. So if you look at that process of issue and return so far, it looks very similar to what we have within that inventory module. So if you've been through that training or you've been working in it already, this flow is going to look very similar. So on the return side, we're going to tap return. Again, it takes you directly into the return cart. So you have two ways to return items. You can select a person or you can scan a person's barcode. So when you select a person or scan the person's barcode, this is the option that allows you to return multiple items. And it's going to include both fixed and consumable items that's been issued out to that person. If you just want to return one single fixed asset, you can either scan that asset barcode or you can select the fixed asset from the list. So we're going to walk through selecting it from a person where it's going to pull down everything that's been assigned to that person and then do a return that way. And then we'll look at the fixed asset side. So again, you have your options. You can either scan or you can either select a person. I'm just going to look at select a person real quick here so you can see when you select a person, it's going to pull down all the people that you have access to that have items assigned to them. So in this case, if you wanted to select the person, simply tap their name. Once you tap their name, it's going to add them to the cart. And then you're going to also see a list of all the items that's been issued out to that person. So here it is. Blossom Act has all these items that's issued out to her. That's not been consumed yet. So any of these consumable items have not been consumed. So these items are in her possession. So in this case, if we're looking at returning some items where they're unopened, they can go back on the shelf. Simply tap on the item, whether it's a consumable item or it's a fixed asset. So in this case, I'm going to tap on this APR cartridge 28. She's not needing all of that. I can tap on that. It's going to ask me the quantity. So what's the quantity that I want to return? So in this case, I want to return 10. And then I have the option to add in notes. So I'm returning 10 and why am I returning 10? So I'm just going to type in here unused and then tap apply. Once I do that, it adds it to the cart. You're going to see that it's going to tell me that I'm returning 10, that's the quantity, and then it's going to have this little notation that it added a note. So unfortunately, due to space, we're not going to have the option to have the entire note listed here. So if you add a note, it's just going to say added note. And that'll be for both consumables and fixed assets. If you want to go back and return some additional items from this person, Miss Ack, all we do is tap on this menu button right here. If you tap on that menu button, it brings you back to the list. And it shows you additional items that you can return. If I want to return this item, I can tap on this fixed asset, this non-consumable. From here, I have my option. So you'll see here it says status. So this is a change status. So by default, it is set to none, which means you don't want to change the status. When you return it, it immediately puts it back to an available status for it to be reissued out to someone else. If you want to change the status, then go ahead and tap on it to change that status. And now you have out of service, missing, or being service. So only tap on this if you're going to change the status to something else other than available. So in this case, I'm going to mark this as out of service. I'm going to put my notes in here and why I'm marking it out of service. So this is, again, a new feature with being able to add notes. Okay. add my notes, tap apply, and you're going to see on here the status change is going to show, and then it'll tell you that you added some notes on here. And I'm pouring things on here. If you need to edit your note, there's no possibility of editing your notes from this screen when it comes to a fixed asset. So you want to make sure that on that very first screen, you enter in all the notes that you need to. If you tap on it, nothing's going to happen. So you see that I'm tapping on that ABC item and nothing's happening. Now for the consumables, I can tap on that and I can change my notes, but you'll have to re-enter your quantity again of what you're looking at changing. So instead, if you're returning 11 instead of 10, you can make that change and you can make changes to your notes that way. But for fixed assets, you'll have to delete it and then re-add it in order to add your new notes. So I'm just gonna put in the same notes again. You'll see that same process. So once you start the manual process, it's manual all the way. There isn't an option for you to scan the items in once you're in the manual process. So again, you can return more items if you need to. Here's another one. I'm not making any changes on here. I'm just going to tap apply. So when you add a fixed asset and don't make any changes to the status or no notes, it just looks like this. It's a plain record. Again, if you need to delete an item, just simply swipe to the left. Once you're done returning the item, simply tap return. Once you tap return, it's going to sync and send, and it's going to show items have returned. Again, once you tap OK, it brings you back to your main menu. So let's take a look at a return doing the scan function. So again, we're going to select a person, but we're going to scan the person's barcode. So we'll do the same person, it's Blossom Ack. So there it is. I did the same person. So return the items. So if I'm going to return this item to apply. So it's the same thing, right? It's the same list. So whether you select the person or scan the person, it's that same process. So I just wanted to show you that you get the same workflow, whether you scan the person or you manually select the person. Now, when it comes to scanning a fixed asset, so on the return screen, if you remember from Salomon Live, the inventory module, the return side is only the return when you're scanning a equipment barcode, it has to be a fixed asset. Okay, so we don't have the return of consumable by scanning through the inventory app as of today. So in here, I can choose to select a fixed asset. If I tap on that, it's going to download a list of all the assigned fixed assets that I have access to. Again, these are all my equipment. So to return an item, just simply tap on it. So I'm going to tap on this Aerial Engine. You can change the status if you need to, add some notes, tap apply. It's going to tell you that this engine was issued out to Lidl Burton. Now you can't add anything more from this. This is a single return. So you see there's no other option for scanning or downloading. So this function, when you're doing a select a fixed asset, is returning a single item. So a single fixed asset. Tap return. Okay, your items have been successfully returned. You can also scan. Go to my barcodes again. Tap the scan button. There it is. I scanned my item. If I want to change the status, I can do so. And I'm just doing some quick notes. Apply. And there it is. Tells you who the person that it was issued out to, your new status, and then your notes added. It's that simple. So again, the process for returning, you have those options. Tap return. The return goes through. Tap OK, and it brings you back to the main menu. So you can kind of see that workflow that you'll always be returned back to the main menu. So it allows you to choose the function that you're looking at doing. So that's the return side. So very different than what we had on the prior version, where you're not going to be able to do multi-select from different people anymore. So we want to make sure that we're working on one person, complete that process, and then work on the next person. Or if you're looking at returning a single item. Now the third option on here is view. So view, this takes place that adjust feature that we had in the prior version. So with view here, again, this function is scan only, so you have to have equipment barcodes to be able to use this. So in this case, if I'm scanning an item, I can scan an item right here. I'm going to scan this radio. So you'll see that this radio was out of service. This is that radio I scanned in earlier trying to issue, but it said it was not available. The reason why is because it was out of service. And you'll see that if you saw earlier when we were on the issue side and we tapped the item name to go into the profile or the details, it had a similar screen. So we basically mirror that screen right here, except now you have a edit function for the status. So you'll see out of service, I can tap that button. If I want to change that status, I can tap to change that status from out of service to something else. I can change it to available, enter in my notes, and tap apply. Once you tap apply, this is a real-time change. It is going back to Salad Live and making the changes to that record. Now, if you want this to appear within that physical count report, because if you remember from the prior version, that adjust feature, it immediately made, when you made those changes and add notes, it marks that within that physical count report. This version is different. So this right here is just making a quick change. If you want this to appear within that physical count report, you do have to tap that scan button at the top there. It's not a scan button, I'm sorry. It looks like a scanner. So basically all this is doing is putting this data, syncing it up to that physical count report. So if you tap on that, it brings you back to the scan item screen. I'm going to scan this item. So here's another item. You'll see that it's available right here. So you see the green. So again, green for available. Everything else is going to be red. Again, if I'm just doing a quick scan and I want to place this within the report, just tap that button again. So I didn't make any changes to that there. If I have an item that is assigned already, you'll see that it's telling you right here that who it's assigned to and their organization. There is no option for you to do this return through the view page or change the status. So this item, if you want to change the status back to available or to something else, you must return it first from the person. So you have to go to the return function, return the item, and then this will allow you to change that status through that return. So again, you can go through your different tabs on here. To scan another item, let's do a consumable item. Tap the back button to get out of here. So consumable, the difference on the consumable side, so this is in stock, so you see that it's a gray background. If I scroll down to the quantity, you'll see that the pencil icon is next to the quantity. So very similar to the prior version. So in this case, if let's say I received a shipment of this item and I wanted to make that change and document that, I could tap the edit pencil icon and put in the new quantity. So you're not putting in like 11 more so that it's going to be 20. So it's going to add 11 to your current quantity. So this is what is the new total quantity that you have on hand. So let's say that I received 100. Now I have 111. So that is my new quantity. Tap apply. and you'll see that this is my new quantity. Again, this is real-time changes. So if I go into Salamander Live, I'm going to see that the new quantity for this item is 111. If I want to again mark this within that physical count report, simply tap that icon at the top right. Once I do so, again, this takes me back to my scanned item screen. If you have an item that's out of stock, see if I have an item that's out of stock here. If you have an item that's out of stock, you'll see a red background instead of that gray. If you scroll down, you'll see that your quantity is none. So again, if you want to make that change, so in this case, I make that change. Let's say I received, 200 in stock. I can put that in, tap apply, and you'll see that the red immediately goes to that gray background, which means I have items in stock. You'll see the new quantity. So again, real time changes. That's syncing up to Salamander Live. So again, that's that same process, making sure that your inventory app, as you're working through it, has internet connection, because everything is syncing back and forth with this data. So that is the new and enhanced inventory app. So we just walk through all the functionality of issue, return, and view. Now, one of the things that you are not going to be able to do with today's version of the inventory app is consume. So that consume process is still only, or that can only be done through the inventory module within Salamander Live. So if you have a bunch of items, some consumable items that were issued out to a person, and you need to mark them as consumed, you'll have to log into Salamander Live and then go through the inventory module to do the consumption. So log in here, inventory module, and then do the consumption here. So this is the one area that we don't have within the inventory app. It's an area that will be added later on in a future release. Any questions on the updated inventory app?
I've got one, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Can you, and maybe I missed at the very beginning, I hopped on a few minutes late. Can you explain the difference between issue and consume?
Issue and consume, yes. So the issue side, so I'll actually go in here for issue. So the issue is where you are assigning a person in your inventory, whether that's fixed assets or consumables. So you're basically saying, here's a bunch of items. I'm going to give them out to you. Whether or not they use it, that's a different story, right? So you're just giving them out items. So in this case, if we issued out a bunch of items, oops, let me just minimize that. This here will pull your entire list of items that you have available. So if I was going to give this person a bunch of batteries, this tells me how many I have in stock. I'm going to give this person a bunch of batteries and a bunch of other items. Now that's issued. It says that this person has those items. Now, if that person doesn't use these items, they can return it. And it goes back into your inventory. So it goes to your inventory quantity on hand. Now, if they don't use it all, but they're saying, hey, I don't need all of that. I'm going to keep these in my possession. Let's say I was given 5 boxes of disposable gloves, and I'm going to keep 2, but give you back 3 because I feel like I don't need that many. I can give them back. You could put them back in your inventory. So I have those 2. They're still in my possession. The consume side, what it does is it closes out that cycle saying, hey, I gave you those 2 boxes of disposable gloves. Did you actually use them? In this case, if they did, you would have to go into Salamander Live and mark it that, hey, they used up those 2 boxes, or out of those 2 boxes they still have in their possession, did they use it? Maybe they used one of the boxes and they're still holding on to one. So that way you always have visibility of tracking of what they still have, so you don't need to issue out them more items than they need. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah,
so consume is only consumable, only consumable. The fixed assets, they're on the return side. So it goes back in your hand, and that's where you can change that status depending on the status of that item. Is it in good condition? Is it broken? Do I need to mark it as damaged and out of service? Is it completely missing and I want to mark it as missing? And then investigate to find out where it actually is. So that's the return side for fixed assets, and then consumable being able to return the items that's been um, assigned to that person, whether that's fixed or consumable.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Christine, you have your hand up. Questions?
Yes, so for us to be able to utilize inventory beta, we need to pay for the license on that one, right? For us to be able to do issue, return, consume, audit, etc. on the system.
That is correct. So when you subscribe to the asset management feature, you
Mm-hmm.
immediately get one inventory app that comes with access to the inventory module. And then if you need more access, so let's say you need more than one person to get access to issue, return, and consume items,
Mm-hmm.
you will need to purchase additional licenses for that.
Yeah, because currently I don't think anybody has access to that. So we purchased one. I think we purchased four, but none of us have access to inventory beta. So I'm not exactly sure if we have to pay additional license for inventory beta or who else who I'm not exactly sure if it's our main IT who does access to this or we don't have access at all. So my question is, do we need to pay for this one? And you said yes, so that answers the questions.
Yeah, it depends on what package you have. Unless I look at your account, I wouldn't be able to tell exactly what you've purchased. And so, if you want to reach out afterwards, I can provide you some information. We can kind of I can go through your account, and
Mm-hmm.
then figure out what you have access to, and then kind of look at, okay, do you guys have the correct permissions as well? So permissions come into play here when
Mm-hmm.
it's access to the inventory module and the inventory app. So I'm going to pull up a record here just so you can see on here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go to this person right here. So in your products, when you subscribe to the asset management feature, you immediately get one inventory app. Okay. So the asset management, let's talk about this, do a breakdown of what you get with these two functionalities. So with this product, asset management, of course, this is the inventory related features within Salamander Live. So this is a function that's tied to this here in the equipment database. So it opens up those inventory related features within the equipment database, which includes the ability to create consumable records and the ability to create alerts and manage those alerts. So that's what this product gives you access to. The inventory slash app, this right here, you'll see that it's separate, gives you access to the inventory module and the inventory app.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The one thing with this is that if they're going to be using the inventory module, they also have to have access to Salamander Live. So if we want this person, I'm going to just do this real quick. If I want this person to be able to, let's say they're just going to be an app user, but I also want them to be able to access the inventory module within Salamander Live, I'll need to activate Salamander Live for that person. So they're going to be using up one of your licenses for Salamander Live. So
Okay.
Salamander Live and an inventory app. If I want them to have access to everything related to inventory, I'm going to assign them Salamander Live, asset management, and the inventory slash app products. That gives them access to everything related to inventory.
Okay. But I don't have that in my user settings. It doesn't show that I have the inventory app, so probably this one is not working.
Oh, okay. So you don't actually have asset management or the inventory slash app in your product list?
So what I have here is Salamander Live, Asset Management, Tag app, and Track app, but the inventory app, it's not showing in my end. So, and the Rapid Tag, I think we bought a Rapid Tag just this year, and it doesn't show here, but that's okay because that's actually in a different computer. I just want to double
Mm-hmm.
check, do we have to pay for additional just to be able to, because in FEP, a lot of people borrowed items from us, and then we
Mm-hmm.
also have a lot of events. So in
Mm.
my point of view is that maybe we can actually use this, or even even different departments in our in health department here at Sedgwick County, that they can probably use this. For example, let's say there's an outreach, and we can probably use this for an event and people are borrowing items from PEP or different departments and we can utilize this inventory app. This is something that we is very useful for us. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately in my end, I have them, I think me and Blake have the main access to this, but we don't, I think both of us doesn't have access to inventory app.
Mm. Okay. Okay. It probably is assigned to someone else. So again, we'll have to take a look at your account.
Mhm.
What state are you in?
Kansas, Sedgwick
Oh, okay.
County.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
Leah.
I see Pat on here.
Yeah, you hear me, Leah?
Yes.
Hey, yeah, so they do have an app. It's assigned to just their one inventory user, and they do have inventory there in their office. So there's like, if Christine, if you can reach out to either me or Jonathan, we can tell you who all has access to that at your agency
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
at Midwest Card and Midwest Card.
Okay.
Yep. And then any additional inventory access or apps that you need, you can go through them and they'll be able to provide you a quote for the additional that you need. Nathaniel, you had a question.
Just real fast, where do we get this recording from so I can sit back and watch it again?
Yeah, so I will provide a recording. If you want the recording, just put your email. You can send it privately or directly to me. You can send it to training@salamanderlive.com. So I'll provide the link here, the screen, populate it. So you can send it to training@salamanderlive.com or you can put it in the chat and then I will send you a link to the recording. I am going to post one on our YouTube channel. So our Salamander YouTube channel has all of our past recordings in there. So you can always go back and review any of these trainings from the past few years. I wouldn't go past uh, 2025 only because we released the new version of Salamander Live in January. So just go back to January if you want to look at anything related to version 3 of Salamander Live and any of the newest updates for our track app and inventory app.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right. Well, everybody, thank you all so much for joining in. Again, if you start working through the inventory app, you run into questions, you want to provide us some feedback, send them to me at training@salamanderlive.com and we will, help you walk through that process one more time to make sure that you all feel comfortable with using the updated version. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you all so much. You have a wonderful day. Take care. And hopefully we'll see you guys back next month. We are going to go through the new inventory management. We've made some big changes to the event side of Salmon Live, specifically the chart. And so come back next month, join me, and then see those new enhancements. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.